So good to have you all. So good to be back for another episode, another talk with you. And I was thinking, now what? I mean, that's what came to my mind. Now what? What do I do after this divorce, after this breakup? Have you ever been in that position where you have been with someone, whether it was 2 months. Well, it might not. No, so it's different for everybody. So I'll say 2 months, 20 years, 10 years, or whatever. And you're like, now what? What do I do now? And just imagine feeling like that with kids involved, after a divorce or a breakup. And many times it's really hard for us to know, what we don't know or have not experienced. Most people don't know what to do. So, how does one know how to respond after a divorce or a breakup? Because it's not like this life comes with an instruction manual with anything. We can get advice, we can hear podcasts, read books or whatever, but what do I know? What does Tiffany, what does you, what do you know to do when you experience ups and downs in life, and specifically, a breakup or divorce? Because emotions are high and low. You feel so many emotions all at once. And depending on the situation, you feel angry, frustration, confusion, resentment, pain, sadness, and sometimes even relief, just to name a few emotions that go on. So when I'm thinking about my own co-parenting journey, I can't help but to think about, how did it start? And what emotions that I felt along the way, how I responded to those emotions, especially in the first year. I mean, that first year, I felt like I was losing my mind in so many ways. And I see this a lot, when I talk to my clients about their co-parenting relationship and letting go of their ex. And I believe how we respond emotionally, post divorce or post breakup, it's truly essential to our healing process. I'll say that again, how we respond emotionally post divorce or breakup, it's essential to our healing process. And specifically, how is it that we respond early in the first year? Now, I don't have any judgment here on my side. Uh, as everything that we talk about, I want to, I want us to look at it in the light of curiosity. I know a lot of times when I'm doing these talks, some people have already gone through some things. So it's almost like a man, I kind of wish I would have known that, because that's what I've heard. I wish I would have known that, during this time. I wish I would have called you to start this process early on. But, what I've seen is most of my clients come to me when things are really bad, when they feel stuck and they're experiencing emotions that are difficult to navigate. But, I got some good news. Just like me and just like my clients, you can have transformation, whether it's been 5 months or 5 years after the fact. You can still have that transformation. And one thing I've learned is, this life journey is a process. We're always going to be going through things day in and day out, and we never arrive. We never get to this point where we're like, oh, I'm just healed from everything. I don't have any issues. I don't have any problems, no triggers, anything. No, we're all imperfect beings. So we're constantly needing to work on ourselves. So that's where the light of curiosity comes into play, because when we can be curious about ourselves, then we can become more self-aware of our behaviors and how we actually um, respond to different situations. So I want to talk about 3 areas. Of course, there's other things, other areas that I can talk about, but specifically today, I want to talk about 3 areas of transition for co-parents after a divorce or breakup. Um, and just like I said, there's definitely more, and I might talk about more later, but these are the 3 that I find that are real essential, in my experience personally and my experience as a coach, that can really help and guide you during your healing process. And I will also say the the talks that I've done on letting go, that focuses on forgiveness, that is so essential. But we're also talking about, okay, what is it that I need to do first and foremost, or until I get to that point of healing and acceptance and forgiving. Sometimes forgiveness isn't automatic. But here are 3 things that we need to really dive into. The first one I want to talk about is really forging a new identity as a parent, as a co-parent. Um, and this really involves shifting our mindset, from partner to co-parent. We are actually accepting this shift, from, from our former partner to co-parent. And it is it's sometimes it's difficult for us to move forward when we can't make that shift, make that mindset shift. But we really have to work towards seeing them as as co-parents. You are now going to partner with them in parenting rather than a romantic relationship. And sometimes I think especially depending on how long you've been with someone, it's almost like you forget to make that shift in your mind of who they are. You can go to one extreme to another. I think that's how a lot of people end up um, in the process where they can't let go, because they consistently allow that person to be in some areas of their life, whether it's in their bed or in their home in an intimate way, but not necessarily setting those boundaries ahead of time, um, or even realizing that they need to set those boundaries. So to do this, we have to accept the new reality. It requires acceptance. That's the first thing that we have to do, because we know we've broken up. So we have to accept it. Sometimes it's hard to accept things. Um, and the willingness to let go of the past, letting go of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, letting go of whatever it is that we thought our future was going to look like. And as we do this, we acknowledge that while the romantic connection is over, our parenting partnership and relationship, it continues. Nothing has happened with our children. Just because we have broken up with our partner, our children have not. Our children are still there. They're still the parent. And really this change, it really reduces feelings of loss or resentment that allows, and it allows us to focus on building a healthier dynamic for our children, because that's what it's all about. And what other thing we need to do as we are identifying as the co-parent versus the partner, we're shifting that mindset, is that we are detaching our personal feelings from parental responsibilities. And this can be really difficult or challenging because a lot of times there's, even in a marriage relationship, we have certain things that we've done, as far as responsibility wise, for the children. We've taken them to their appointments, we've taken them to school, or whatever the case may be. And those are parents' responsibilities. And sometimes if we do not detach how we feel personally, you know, any resentment, any frustration, any negative emotions that might come up, if we don't detach those from those parental responsibilities, it can really hurt our children in the process. That hurt, that feeling of nostalgia, where when it comes to our parenting responsibilities, as it comes to our feelings. So we really have to detach those things. So, and we have to focus solely on our roles as co-parents. This can really help us to avoid personal grievances, or I should say, letting go personal grievances, interfering with our responsibilities as it relates to our child. Because if you think about it, if we are, if our mind is so cloudy and our heart is so cloudy with um, all these emotions, all these negative emotions, and we're unable to separate or detach from our personal feelings, we can't see clear enough in regards to what it is that we can do together to partner together. Because we're not going to want a partner because we're still hurt, and that hurt can lead to bitterness, long-term bitterness and resentment. Because a lot of times those feelings aren't going to go away. They're just going to multiply. They're just going to increase as time goes on, as situations change along the way. So, and with that being said, we really have to allow time for transition. Like any transition, whether it's even a death of a loved one. In so many ways, this is a death. We are grieving this relationship. So we have to really give ourselves grace as we move through this process. This is where we can't judge ourselves. We can't judge even our partner. Uh, we can't judge our children in this process because they're going through this with us. So this healing from the breakup, while we're forging a new partnership identity, it's not going to happen overnight. But with time and effort, we got to put the effort in. Our relationship, it can transform into a productive partnership. It is possible. I mean, I've done it. I've walked with clients through the process of doing it, and everybody's situation looks different. I can't help but to say that everybody's situation looks different because everyone, they have different partners and they have different kids. So you definitely have to give yourself grace There's no time stamp on healing or getting over anything, but we can move forward in the process. And one other important thing, as we take on this new identity, we have to have positive, or I should say, demonstrate positive behavior for our child. Remember, our child is looking at us during this process. They're going through their own emotional struggles, their own confusion. Some of them might be blaming themselves for what has happened. But we have to really model healthy behaviors for our child, because our children, they often mirror our attitudes and our behaviors, and it's crucial for us to show respect and cooperation and maturity. Maturity. Healthy co-parenting relationships is for grown folks. It is for grown folks, and you have to be mature in order to have the healthy co-parenting relationship that not only you deserve, but your child deserves. Um, and it's also going to teach our children how to manage conflict. You're their first teacher. Even though our kids spend a lot of time at school, you're still their first teacher. And you're doing the way you manage this time, it's going to show them not only how to manage conflict, but also how to deal with change. Because change is going to happen in their lives, conflict is going to happen in their lives, and it's going to show them how to form healthy relationships. We want our kids to be healthy so they can have healthy relationships. Now, please let me know, what's really resonating with you with these areas of transition, and really let me know, um, what has helped you as well, as you go through this process. Now the second one, the second transition, area of transition after a divorce or breakup, is redefining boundaries. Now, this one is huge because we tend to not have clear boundaries after our breakup or divorce. I don't think we think about it because we're, just like I said, our emotions are so all over the place. Um, I mean, our emotions are at a high, our emotions are low at times, and it's hard for us to really think through a lot of things. And remember, if you've been broken up 5 months or 5 years, you could still begin this process. Um, there's no time limit. Everything, I should say, is so important for us to just begin so we can move forward and get better. Okay. So we need to set clear and respectful boundaries because it really helps us to redefine our relationship, from that romantic partner to co-parenting. And it also allows both to heal and maintain a functional partnership with the child. There should be boundaries around how you interact with each other now. Yes, you might have stayed in the same home. Yes, you might have shared certain aspects of a romantic relationship, but that's all different now. Those are boundaries that we have to set in place. And remember, boundaries are for us. They're not for others. We can't impose our boundaries on anyone else, but we can demand that our boundaries be respected. That's one thing we can do. You're not going to raise your voice at me. I know that things are different now, and I really would prefer that you not come into the house, that you just drop the kids off, or we meet somewhere else. to exchange the children, it is a boundary, and that's something that you have to realize on your own. What boundaries do I need? What boundaries do I need to help me emotionally move forward, to help me let go, to help me heal in this process? Um, Also, the specifics of some boundaries, it's going to vary from family to family. So we always have to keep that in mind. Okay. And as we go through redefining boundaries, it's good for us to define our roles and responsibilities. Now that we do not live in the same home, what roles and responsibilities, are expected. Whether the kids are with you every other weekend or not, there still should be roles and responsibilities, because that parent is still the parent, no matter what. Um, and we have to clarify the roles, not only define them, but we need to clarify them. So, for instance, one parent might handle school related activities, you know, and the other manage healthcare. They might take the children to their doctor's appointments, their dental appointments, or whatever the case may be. And when you define those boundaries, define those roles and those responsibilities, then there's not going to be any confusion or overlap or misunderstanding, because it's something that you have agreed upon. And I'll actually say this too, um, as far as agreements, it's so good if they're in writing. That's where parenting plans come in at. Um, and if you don't do a parenting plan, it can be in your legal agreement. You know, and just to be a little transparent in regards to my life, and I've seen this with others, other clients that I've had as well, is yes, we may have a legal agreement, but we execute some flexibility within that agreement, um, amongst ourselves. So um, we're not so rigid as it comes to that agreement. Now, of course, that legal agreement, it comes into play specifically when we're at a crossroads where we just can't agree. Um, there's never really been instances where I've had to be rigid, or he's had to be rigid with an agreement, but that's why it's in place. Um, but if you're able to work together and develop a respectful, healthy relationship, there won't be a need for it. So um, I just wanted to mention that about the parenting plan, the co-parenting plan, as well as the legal agreement, because it's always good to have, regardless. And respecting our personal space. That's something that you normally think about, as it relates to boundaries. I gave the examples about coming into the home and things of that nature. That might be something that you might want to consider, but whatever is going to move you into more of a healthy space. Emotional boundaries, not just physical boundaries, but emotional boundaries as well. After a breakup, it's natural to expand your range of emotions, that those highs and lows that I was talking about, but it's important to keep those emotional aspects of the relationship separate from the co-parental relationship. It's easy for us to bring those past grievances or unresolved issues into our parenting discussions or whatnot, but that's where we put in those emotional boundaries. And remember, those amount most of those boundaries are for you, not for anyone else. So as you become more self-aware of what it is that you need, then you're able to communicate that. And you're also able to demonstrate that as well. You know, when you know you're a certain way, you know, if you can fly off the handle at any moment, or you're triggered by certain things, you know, put that boundary in place. Whatever that particular thing that might trigger you, you know, put that in place. Um, I mean, I know I didn't do too good in this personal space area early on, but it was funny because my ex, he had to remind me, hey, you know, things are how it used to be. This is not the season for for you to enter this space. So and it's funny because when you set up boundaries, when you let people know, when you communicate those boundaries to other people, I mean, it helps you to, it really, if you're mature, I mean, you should be able to take a step back and be like, okay, and recognize what it is, that adjustments that you need to make. But then it also gives the other person awareness of, okay, where that person is and how we need to move forward, you know. So that's one thing that I love about boundaries too, because it not only, you know, you're not only communicating where you are, but you're also seeing where other people are as it relates to your boundaries, and how you should what's the word, but where you should actually put them, you know, what bucket to put them in your life, you know, whether it's um or even in friendship, shoot, how close you should have a friend, or whatever the case may be. Boundaries are just huge. And what about social media boundaries? You know, we're living in this social media age, so it's good to avoid posting negative comments. I think that's a good thing, don't you think? It's a good thing to to avoid. This is mature folks. You know, we don't post negative comments or private details about our ex. You know, because it can potentially affect the children ultimately, and we don't want anything coming back to where it can interfere with our co-parenting dynamic as well. You know, that's just adding fuel to a fire that might not even be a fire or a flicker, and we don't need that. Um, and it also helps, you know, to when you're setting up boundaries, to set those guidelines for interactions. You know, I've had, you know, clients that have had exes where, you know, they didn't feel like they can talk to them at all on the phone. So, you know, they chose text or email. But whatever the case may be, it's important for you to set that method of communication. And it has to be regular communication as regards to your child. You know, because it's important for each parent to know what's going on. It's their child. It's important for them to know what's going on with their child. And as always, we want to keep our interactions focused on our child's need. So we don't have to have unnecessary personal conversations, you know, because a lot of times that can reopen some wounds, and it can also lead to arguments. So we want to keep our focus on our child, you know, keep it, you know, professional, strictly professional, business like. Because our child is our business, and this is our business partner. Okay. All right. So the last one, um, the last area of transition, I really almost kind of went into it with focusing on the child. focusing on our child's needs. I mean, I really cannot emphasize that enough. Um, when we are constantly focusing on our child's emotional and psychological needs, this healing, is facilitated when both parents prioritize this, because we are prioritizing a safe space for our child. We're prioritizing nurturing an environment of appreciation and love for our child. And as I've said before, you've gone through a divorce and breakup, and so has your child. So it's so important for us to focus on our child's needs. We're always going to ask, when we're making decisions, what is best for my child, when making decisions? Whether it's about school, healthcare, extracurricular activities, the child's interest should guide you. It should guide both of you. And it just makes it so much easier. And of course, this varies by age and what developmental stage they're in. It's going to determine what decisions are made. Of course, younger children, they're going to need more consistency in the routine because they're developed. They're used to seeing someone every day. Just imagine a 1 or 2 year old, 3-year-old, who's used to seeing their mom or dad every day, and all of a sudden they don't. That's huge for a young child like that. So they need a lot more consistency in the routines, of seeing the parent, or even when the parent is with a child a certain part of the month, having those same routines, that same structure. It helps so much with younger children because they're learning so, and their brain is developing so at that stage. And of course, older children, we have to get involved, with older children, especially as it relates to the decision-making process. We want to get them, a little involved in, because they're old enough to make decisions. I have a 12 and 14-year-old. A lot of times, we do ask them, what do they think about certain things? Because they are old enough to ask. So it's important to help them to feel heard, help them to feel seen. That is so important. One other thing we need to do for our kids, as far as focusing on their needs, is providing stability and consistency. As I mentioned about younger children, they really thrive on routine. And I would say even older children, um, they thrive on that as well. It kind of keeps things, it helps them to see, I feel safe. In so many ways, stability, that provides security and safety for children, because a lot of times, they don't feel safe, they don't feel secure during this time of transition. Um, so it's always helpful, if you can, during that co-parenting agreement, you can, maintain similar routines across households, whether it's consistent bedtime or homework schedules or whatever the case may be, meal times. I mean, just small stuff. It is very helpful if you could provide that type of consistency for the child. And just like I said before, I mean, it's different for different families. Sometimes um, it's a matter of distance and travel, so it's a little harder to provide a lot of that. But just the consistency of whatever it is that you do, at your household, it makes the biggest difference in the world. Even if it's just one thing that's consistent. I mean, I know one thing that we've kept in both of our households is movie night. They have my boys have movie night with me on Fridays when they come, and they have movie night on Saturdays at their dad's house. So it's just good to just start, have that consistent routine, because the kids, they really yearn for it. They want that stability and that security, and that's a great opportunity to start new traditions with them. And that's something that's really fun, for them as well. And one thing I really believe that's so important too is encouraging them to have healthy relationships with the other parent. And now remember, if you have not done number one, the area of transition in regards to identifying, or I should say redefining your identity as the co-parent and not the partner, it's going to be hard for you to do that, because you're going to be looking at, your ex as your partner and not the parent. So when you're able to encourage your child, hey, have you talked to your dad today? Hey, um, your mom wants you to call her such and such time, or whatever, you know, um, or even if the child, remember, these children, they love their parents. So if you give them the space to talk to you about them, did I say that right? If you give them the space to talk to you, yes, about them, it will help them to open up. I remember one instance where, and this was probably within the first year, and the boy's dad called, and we were on the car phone, and he was talking to the boys, and he told them that he loved them at the end of the call. And so when he got off the call, we were walking into the house, and one of my boys, he said, Mama, I wasn't sure if I could say I love you to Daddy. And I was like, sweetie, of course you can say you love your daddy. Your daddy loves you. I know you love your daddy. And then he was like, well, I don't want you to feel that I didn't love you. And I was like, baby, yes, I know, you love me, and I know you love your daddy. So it's definitely, it's okay to say, that you love your daddy around me, because I know that I want you to love your daddy, and because I know your daddy loves you. So just imagine if I still had all these unresolved issues, all these wounds, um, from the past that I was dealing with. In that moment, I might not have responded to my child the way I did. If I still had those wounds, I would have responded in a way that would have caused him to feel bad about how he felt about his dad, and how he and ultimately how he might have felt about himself. Because remember too, these children are half of y'all. They are half of you, and they are half of the other parent. So when you're talking about the other parent, guess what? You talking about half of your child. I'm not saying that whatever you're saying about the other parent is what your child is, but just imagine if your child heard that. I mean, what would you think? I mean, they could be like, well, shoot, if my mama and my daddy says such and such about my mama or my daddy, I wonder if I'm like that. I must be like that. So we want to raise emotionally healthy children, and we want to make it easy for our child to communicate. with us and with the other parent, even when they're not with us. Okay. We want to encourage them to call their other parent. We want to encourage that. We want to encourage them to video call or message them. They have these cell phones now. Kids as young as 5 have cell phones now. So we have to encourage that, okay? And we also have to provide that emotional support to them. If we're so caught up in our own emotional baggage, our own emotional world, we cannot see what our children is going through. Because they have, I can't express this enough. They have experienced a divorce and breakup too. Okay. So we really have to listen to their concerns without judgment. We have to listen without judgment because they might have something to say about you. And if they have something to say about the other parent, we also have to listen and not judge. And we have to provide reassurance. Now, of course, if it is a place, if it is a time, or I should say a situation where it's extreme, where it's a safety thing, then of course we act accordingly. But if it's just things that we're probably triggered about something that they might have said that was good about the other parent, we can encourage them, um, so they can continue to have that healthy relationship with the other parent. So those 3 areas of transition: identifying or redefining our identity as a co-parent and not a partner, finding out who it is we are now, and setting up those boundaries. We have to redefine our boundaries, those physical boundaries, those emotional boundaries, social media boundaries. And we have to focus on the needs of our child. I really hope that you all have gotten something out of today. Please let me know what's resonated with you. And if you need me, my Calendly is up to date. Please schedule an appointment with me. And also, we always need resources to help us grow. And I have something that I would love to share with you. So if you would DM co-parent to me at whatever platform that is that you're watching me on, just message me and I'll send you over that free gift that can definitely assist you in your co-parenting journey. And as you know, I'm always here as well, to help you throughout this journey and to just to be here for you. So until next time, I thank you so much for joining me. And so I'll see you again. Bye-bye.